If you're following a keto, carnivore, or low-carb diet, there's plenty of talk about turf. There's beef, there's butter, there's bacon, there's eggs, there's chicken, there's pork. But what about our ocean friends? We don't talk nearly enough about those. Today on Southern Keto, I'm going to talk about not just the turf, because it's actually like a side dish to this, but I'm going to talk about the surf today. How about some beautiful crab cakes with just the right amount of seasoning that lets the crab shine through, so we can have the turf and we can have the surf. Stick around. Today I wanted to do a beautiful crab cake with some thin T-bones. Normally I like a nice, thick, juicy T-bone, but I spent all my money on the crab, so all I could get was these thin ones. But it's basically like a bed or a side for these crab cakes. These crab cakes will make not only the keto and low carb people happy, but I think it's going to satisfy a lot of carnivores too. Anyway, let's go in the kitchen. Let me show you what you need to put together this surf and turf. So let's start with the surf, shall we? The first thing you're going to need is about 3 tablespoons of my Duke's 2.0 mayonnaise. Then you're going to need some Worcestershire sauce. A teaspoon of that gives a really great flavor. If you don't like Worcestershire, then don't use it, but hey, don't blame me when it don't taste as good as mine does. Then you're going to need some pork panko. We're going to go in with a half a cup of that. So you don't need this whole sack, just a little bit of it. And then some Dijon mustard. About 2 teaspoons of Dijon, somewhere in that ballpark. This is not an exact science, but 1.5 or 2 teaspoons of that is going to work just fine. Then you're going to need some Redmond's real salt or some pink Himalayan salt. We'll use a 1/4 teaspoon of that to bring out that flavor. Then you're going to need 2 whole eggs, not just egg whites, so I'm not yolking. The next thing you'll need is some parsley flakes. I use this dried one from Sam's, and I put in about 1 tablespoon to 1.5 tablespoons. You'll need some Old Bay seasoning, of course, because you can't have any seafood without that Old Bay. You'll need 1 teaspoon of that. And some celery salt. I'm going to use about 1 teaspoon of celery salt in there just for a little extra backbone. You're going to need some good Italian or another single source, good extra virgin olive oil. And if you don't like using olive oil to fry in, it ain't gonna hurt anything, but you can use avocado. I'll take my 2 eggs and crack them into my favorite yellow mixing bowl. And I know this is a little bit of whiskey business, but hey, you gotta live dangerously. Whisk that up till it gets nice and scrambled up proper. To that, I'm gonna add in some of my Duke's 2.0 mayonnaise. I'll put the link for it up above and in the description. If you haven't made it, you need to. And then I'm going to put in my Dijon mustard, just about that much. And then in with the Worcestershire. You can measure this out. I'll put all the measurements down in the description box so you can follow along. And then I'm just going to toss in some of that Old Bay seasoning. Then I'm going to add in my salt. After that, I'll add in the celery salt. So 2 salts together with totally different tastes to give this an absolutely great flavor. You're going to love it. Then go in with your parsley, and you can of course use fresh parsley, but if you do, you'll probably need about 3 tablespoons of it, somewhere between 2.5 to 3, because this has a really nice concentrated flavor, and you really want that freshness. Now, I'll put in that pork panko, and don't worry, you're not going to taste it. It's not going to taste like pork rinds, so don't freak out or anything, but I'll just mix it up as well as I can until everything's fully incorporated, and then I'll show you we got to add in some crab. I got 2 of these 8-ounce containers of lump crab meat. You want to know why they call it lump? Watch this. That's why right there. Now you got to take it and just break it up as best you can. Leave some big chunks in there, but you want to break it up pretty good for the most part, just like that. And of course you can use fresh crab meat also if you got that, but this is super easy. It was on sale, so I decided to get it and use that. So just break all that up real good. We've already got the seasoning for it and the rest of that mixture in the yellow bowl, so now we just got to kind of fold it in just like this. When you're done and this mixed in proper, I'm just going to kind of go in and cut it into fourths, And then I'm gonna take about half of each fourth, because this is gonna make 8 crab cakes. So I'll just take as much as I can, just kind of eyeball it a little, but you want them to all be about the same size so they cook evenly. Now I'm just gonna put it in my hands and just ball it up, and then I'll put it on a parchment paper lined plate so that we can go right into that hot oil with it whenever it's ready. Now it's time for the turf portion of this keto surf and turf. Normally I love a good New York strip, but they have these thin T-bones on sale, so that's what I got. You can cook them any way you want, and it goes great with those crab cakes. So I'm just gonna take those, put a little good olive oil on top of them, and I'm gonna actually air fry mine this time. I really like doing that. It comes out really good. Just make sure you pat all that oil into it, put whatever seasonings you want on top, maybe a little salt and pepper if you want, maybe some steak seasoning. Just make sure you get it all rubbed in good, and then we'll go into the air fryer with it as soon as it's preheated. So I'm using this Tyfer. I'll put a link to this thing down below if you're looking for a great air fryer. This is it. I'm just gonna preheat it to 400 degrees. It only takes about 5 minutes for this thing to get up to heat, and it's absolutely silent, so you'll love that feature. If you like keto, carnivore, or low carb recipes, make sure and subscribe and you won't miss another one. I'm gonna use my Hex-Clad 12-inch frying pan. You want something about that size to fry up these crab cakes with. And I'm gonna put in some olive oil, just maybe a quarter, half an inch of oil, something like that. You don't want them to be swimming in it, but you wanna make sure you got enough oil in there. I'll turn it up to a medium-high heat. Let that oil get nice and hot, and then I'll season up these steaks in the meantime. Fryer's hot, so I'm gonna bump the temperature of this up to 450 to get a nice sear on these steaks. Just put them right in the basket. You could do about probably 3, maybe 4 steaks in this thing if you wanted to. And I'm just gonna go the first time for 4 minutes, and we'll check it after that. Now that this oil gets nice and hot, I just always throw a drop of water in there to make sure that it is. And once it pops like that, just lay those in away from you so it doesn't splash up on you. Sometimes I live dangerously and I forget to do that, and some of it inevitably splashes out on me, so I try my best to lay it away from you, and then the oil will splash the other way if it splashes at all. And one of the things I love about this big pan is you can put all 8 in there at one time, and you just want to watch these, leave them in somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes, just depending, but you want the one side to get nice and golden before you flip them. Now the steak is done, so I'm just gonna pull that out. Listen to that. Oh yeah. I give it a nice little flip and then stick it back in for just another few minutes. Just double check. Once you know your air fryer, you'll know how long to do it. I'm gonna put it up again to 450 and another 4 minutes. So just give those a check. Make sure they're getting as brown as you want them on the other side before you flip them over. You don't want them to soak up a bunch of oil or anything. They're not quite ready, but the steak is, so we'll pull it out. Listen to that. I'm telling you right now, it's gonna be a good steak. And just let that rest for a couple minutes. We'll go back and flip all of these crab cakes over now, because they are ready to go. Look at that. These are done. We'll just transfer them over to a paper towel, get that excess oil off of them so that they get ultimately crispy. You are absolutely gonna love these. And I'm gonna plate it up just like this. I closed that door to keep the heat in. I'm just gonna take one of those beautiful little T-bones out of there, a nice thin cut, because the star of the show is the crab cake. I'll put it right on the plate there, and then I'm gonna go in with a crab cake. Let's make it 2 crab cakes. I'm gonna serve that up with my tartar sauce and half a lemon to squeeze on top, and tell me that does not look absolutely delicious. I think y'all gonna love this. I'm telling you right now, man, we're gonna be eating good tonight. If you want more keto surf recipes, click this playlist right here. There's a bunch of stuff on there that you're gonna love.